What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So it's about one day after the storm just happened. As you can see, it's still pretty snowy out. It's about 40 degrees, 35 maybe. So not ideal conditions to be working on the car, but it's sunny. It's not raining, it's not snowing, so we're gonna get working on this radiator removal and install. So I got going pretty early this morning, so I'll give you a rundown of what I've done so far and then the next steps to come. I've looked online for a lot of videos on this, and everybody seems to be doing radiators on the DE motor, and I have the HR, so I think this will definitely be informative and help some of you out. Okay, so far I jacked the car up, I got it on jack stands. All the videos that I've watched, everybody removes the strut tower brace and then removes the top cover of the engine because the DE one comes like really close to the rad up here. But as you can see on mine, it's completely open. So as of right now, I don't think there's any reason why I need to remove this or this. Also, because I have aftermarket air intakes and don't have the big air boxes here, I don't believe I should even have to remove these. Maybe this side, at least just the cone filter to give myself more clearance here. But I believe this side is completely free and there's plenty of room here. So I don't think that should be a problem at all. As you can see with the HR motors, the coolant fill reservoir thing is right here rather than on the actual radiator like on the DE motors. Okay, so I went ahead and as you can see, I got my drain pan under here. There is a Phillips head plastic screw on the bottom of the radiator that allows you to drain it nice and easy. I didn't even have to take off the undershroud of the car. I undid some bolts for it so that way in case like it wasn't draining properly, I could pull it off really easily. But I started undoing them and I looked at there's an opening. Let me see if I can get under here and show you guys. So as you can see, the coolant is still draining, but there's an opening right there, and right there is the little Phillips head plastic screw. So you just unscrew that and let it drain into a pan or a bucket or something. I'd recommend wearing gloves. I got coolant all over my hands when I did this because it starts draining before you can get all the threads completely out. So once you get that started, I'd say go up here and open your cap because it is a pressurized system. So once you open this, it allows airflow in and lets it drain out a lot faster. I don't know if you guys can tell, but this is super not ideal at all. It's completely ice right here, right in front of my car where I'm working, so it's pretty sketchy. I think you guys saw in the last video, but check out the snowman. Right behind the Z. It's perfect. I like it. Alright, so once that is done draining, it's still going pretty steadily right now. Once that's done draining, we're gonna go ahead and start to remove some of these hoses. Top hose here. We'll pull all these breather hoses and the overflow hose. I got to pull this hose here. And then I believe that is the bottom hose. There might be one down below as well. And then we can start unbolting the fans and the overflow tank and unplug the fans down here. And then I think there's a couple things on the bottom. But I'm doing all this without taking off the front bumper. Some people have taken it off, some people haven't. I don't really see the need to take it off because you can't, it doesn't help to get to it from the front. Everything is on this side. So I don't really see the need for that because the radiator is going to pull straight out here anyway. Even if I took off the bumper, it's not like I can get at it from the front like I said. So I'm going to try to leave that on for now. I don't see the need to do all that work for maybe a little bit more clearance to get to things underneath, but once you have the car jacked up anyway, it doesn't really make much of a difference. So with that being said, we're going to go forward with that, wait till it's done draining, and then we can start popping these out. I don't want coolant to go everywhere if it hasn't drained fully, so Don't really know how far I'll get on this today. I'm trying to keep my expectations low. I usually want to rush through a job and get it done right away, and I end up getting discouraged when things don't go properly, and it's frustrating. So I'm trying to just go slow with this one, take my time. If I get halfway through it and it's not finished, that's fine. Luckily, I do have the Golf here to drive during the week to work and back, so that makes that super helpful, as today is Sunday, and if I had to drive this to work tomorrow, yeah, I don't know what I would do, because I don't know if I'll get this done today. My plan is to at least get the radiator out, and then if I can get the new one in, that would be awesome. But bleeding the lines is going to take the longest amount of time, because you gotta warm it up, let it cool down, warm it up, let it cool down, and that's a lot of time intervals in between. So, and we have only so many hours of daylight. So yeah, trying to keep my expectations low on this one and take my time and get through it. I'm also so glad that I bought this creeper from Harbor Freight. I got it on sale. It was super cheap. But it makes days like this where it's just warm enough to be out here working. Obviously conditions aren't ideal, but at least I have that to lay on and roll around, rather than trying to scoot around on the ground or put a piece of cardboard down or something, which I would do if I had to. But this was an awesome purchase, and it's definitely got its money worth already. Wow, this thing is still going. It's been like at least 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Well, I guess the next time you'll see it'll be done. Okay, so while I was letting the rest of the coolant drain and my battery charge on my camera, I went ahead and just did a couple things quickly. So I moved these hose clamps back, so that's ready to be pulled off on both sides. I undid, there's one bolt here, one bolt here, and then there's two on the overflow tank. This one's still partially in, holding it on. I always like to put bolts back in the hole if possible, because in that way you know exactly where it goes and you don't lose it. It's easy on jobs like this to get all your bolts taken out and then all mixed together, and then you can't remember. You think you'll remember where they go, but you never do, and you always end up with two that look very similar, or maybe they are identical and you don't know where to put them back. So I always try to put them back in the same hole, or keep different sections together. Like I have these two bolts separated in a separate spot, so I know they at least go together. The other thing I went ahead and did while I was waiting is I just unplugged this fan plug right here. After looking and trying to recount my steps and figure out what the next steps of this process are, there's another plug that's down lower that would be potentially doable to unplug from the top, but it's pretty far down and it's at a weird angle, so it makes more sense to do it from the bottom, and that's why you have to take the undershroud off to get to that plug and to get to the bottom hose easier and do all that. So I'm gonna have to get under and take the undershroud off, even though I had just said a minute ago that I was doing it without it. But we're done. We're done draining fluid now. It was like slightly still dripping, but I put the drain plug back in and tightened it up so that way it's not dripping out anymore when I try and pull this out. So I guess I'm now gonna just get under and take the shroud off. Okay, so a little update. After messing around with this stupid shroud for a while, there's one bolt right there that's rusted and stripped out that I can't get out. So for now, I've turned the whole shroud sideways. I might end up just cutting that off because I want to replace this with an aluminum tray anyway. But for now, it's slightly out of the way. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, also just so you guys know, this is the drain plug right here for the radiator. That's the driver's side wheel. So yeah, that's the drain plug right there, just so you're aware. I'm going to go ahead and get this hose clamp off. I have my bucket here just so that way any more coolant that drains out of this can fall in here safely. Okay, so I got the bottom hose disconnected and some more fluid is coming out. So I'm just going to wait for that to drain. And then I'm going to try and get up under there and unplug the other fan plug, and yeah, we'll go from there. Two bolt holes right here are the only two that hold the overflow tank in. So once you undo those two, you have one of the top thin hoses that runs down through this and down the side here through those clips. So you just pull that out and it comes straight off. Set that aside. Now we have access to this plug here, so I'm just going to use a flathead to undo it. I already did that one. This whole shroud is loose because I undid the top two bolts. This one's actually like broken here, which sucks, but once I undo that plug, I believe there's one more all the way over there that I think I have to undo, and then the bottom of the fan here is just held in by clips that I might have to pry from the bottom. But I think they're pretty easy because when I was moving the shroud around, I moved one of them. So let's go ahead and get this plug undone, and then I'll update you guys. This big shirt rag that I have, put that there, and then you can get this off. These hoses are a pain to get going, but once you get them going, then they just pretty much slide. Let's make sure that this is right here. Okay. Yep, see, a little bit, not much, but a little bit. Okay, keep that angled upward. Soak up that coolant as much as possible. You have to dispose of this stuff all properly afterward. Can't just throw it out. So fill a jug with all your leftover coolant and take it to AutoZone or wherever, and they'll dispose of it properly. Same with oil. Okay. This one is going to be a pain to get off of here. It's like sealed on there pretty good. On the bottom radiator hose, I had to take my channel locks and just grip it and just slightly turn it. Luckily, I'm not too worried about these hoses because I'm replacing them with silicone ones from Concept Z Performance, but yeah, it's nice to not damage things if you don't need to. It's good to have spares in case something ever happens. So, yeah, I'm going to grab my channel locks and see if I can just slightly wiggle this off. Okay, so we got that top fan hose off. This was a bit of a pain. It was really sealed on there really well. So just lightly grip with the channel locks because I didn't want to hurt this at all, and just moved it back and forth, twisting it in this direction, not pulling on it at all because it was sealed. It wouldn't pull this way. So just twisting it this way, just broke the seal, and then I was able to just use my hand and pull it off nice and slowly and easily. And even though I've completely drained the system, that top hose just is still pretty full with fluid, and a little bit of liquid makes a big mess. So I carefully pulled it off and brought it underneath and dumped it into my bucket down there. This fitting here is pretty grody. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I wiped a bunch of the gunk off. It's just got like residual coolant and stuff, just like gunked on it. But put my cap back on so nothing can go in there. I have this plugged so no fluid, no more coolant comes out this way. Now I believe I should be able to pull this fan out. There's that one plug down there, but I don't know if I can get to it unless I go underneath. Let's just try and pull this out. Okay, one thing to be really careful of when you're doing all this stuff. Okay, so you have AC condenser lines right here. What you don't want to do is bend or break one of those. So we got to be super mindful of that, getting things cleared by. I think I'm going to set you guys down. Alright. I don't know how much you guys will be able to see from this direction, but it's kind of the only place I can set you right now. So, Let's try. Creeper's running away on me. Okay. Yeah, so the plug down there is going to be an issue. I'm going to have to grab, now that I move this up a little bit, I'm going to try and grab my flathead and see if I can get that off. Alright, let's rest this here. I'm going to grab my flathead and see if I can get that off. Where did I put it? Move that over there. This ice in front of my car is killing me right now. On the fan where the wires run, there's all these like U-shaped clips holding the wires in, and they have these big plastic tabs. I just broke one of them, so if you're doing this, be mindful and careful of that. Yeah, so I have two options here, I think. So these are those clips that I was talking about. They have like a one-way attachment, so if you try and pull them out, they like break, which sucks. So I have two options here. I can either pull that wire out and break another clip, or try to get underneath and unplug the plug down there. So I think I'm going to try and go underneath for a minute. Okay, just to update you guys on this, there's two plugs down there, right there, that you have to unplug to get the fans out. They're a serious pain to get to. They're like sideways, so it's hard to get to the clips, but you have to undo those to get the fans out. Okay, once they're out, we got the bottom hose unhooked right there. You basically turn these to the left to unlock them, which I've already done. You can take them off like that. So both of those are off. Now I think the radiator is good to go to get pulled out. I'm not sure if there's anything on the bottom that I need to undo, but let's try it out. I need to look up something here because it looks like these AC lines are connected to the radiator, potentially. And if that's the case, I don't know how to get those off. So I need to go consult the Google and figure that out. Okay, so quick update on this because my battery died on the camera, but we got the radiator out. So it's over here. It's actually really thin. So that's the size of the old radiator. That's the size of the new radiator. So it's obviously a huge difference. One thing I want to let you guys know, so I was starting to pull the radiator out, and if you can see, these lines right here I thought were attached to the actual radiator, but there's covers here that look like that. So you pop those off with a flathead, and there's a screw that goes through the AC condenser into the radiator that holds that to it. So make sure you undo those on both sides. And then the radiator is practically ready to pull straight out. On the bottom side, the radiator has these little clips right here that the AC condenser sits inside of. Now, there's no actual like clip to them or anything, they just pull straight out, but when I was trying to pull it, it was a little bit hard, so I had to get underneath and just separate the two. Be careful with this because there's really nothing holding it in place without the radiator here. I have it resting on the two brackets down there, but yeah, you want to make sure that it doesn't flex too much because these being metal pipes, you know, they can easily bend or break, so you want to be very careful of that. So that's resting in there. Got the new radiator out here now, so I'm going to start, I think, putting it back together now. Basically, I got the radiator in, and it went in fine even though it's much thicker. On the bottom, the two brackets, I had to do a little bit of modification to these rubber boots here. Basically, it like goes up, and then there's another layer of it. You have to cut that top layer off in order to get it up over this edge and down through the hole. So I did that. Just used a knife and cut them. So basically you cut these in half and then they fit fine. The metal brackets on the inside edge here were a little tight, so I had to drill them a little bit to make them fit. I'm sorry that I couldn't show you guys that, but I need two hands and I couldn't really set this up anywhere. But from there, basically, I got it put in. I went and plugged the plugs back in down here. There's two here, and then there's one up top on this side. That one over there, I realized that I never even needed to unplug it, but that's fine. It's plugged back in now. I made sure I tightened the drain bolt. And then, if we go back up here, the only issue I'm having is, as you can see, this isn't really lining up the best. And the hole here is like way out of line. So, temporarily, just to hold this in place and get everything buttoned back up, I'm just using zip ties, but I need to figure out a solution for how to fasten those back in. Yeah, things are pretty out of line up here, which I'm not really sure what to do about yet. But anyway, got the fans back in, so got that plug back in there. This is the one that I was talking about that I never needed to unhook. It looks like, even though these clips are broken, the fan lines up perfectly up here and the two clips down below, so that's great. I'm gonna get those tightened on, and even though this radiator is much thicker, you can still see there's plenty of clearance here, so that's good. Okay, so here it is. I'm sorry you guys, I couldn't show you everything, but basically after I got all the plugs hooked up and the fan on, I locked these back down. I put a couple bolts in here and here. I gotta get different bolts because these ones are a bit too long. I dropped the overflow tank back in and I hooked up all the hoses. Got all the hose clamps on all the lines. These ones don't have hose clamps, but this line here is specifically something of concern because it's really close to that belt and pulley right down here. So I zip tied it to the back housing of the fan to try and keep it away from there. I'm going to keep an eye on it because it's really, really tiny clearance. Like I can't even fit my fingertip in between them. But yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on that. So I think the next steps are just, I got to fill it up with coolant and bleed the system, which is a project in itself because there's going to be a ton of air in the system since you've opened up all the lines and undid all the hoses and allowed air to get in. So I'm going to have to fill it up, bleed it, and there's a whole process that you go through by running the engine and everything like that. So I'll take you along that journey as well. But yeah, so this is all buttoned up and I'm pretty sure everything's back together. I had some issues with inside these caps, like I showed you to pop them off, and there's a bolt that goes through. The bolts don't line up through the AC condenser and the new radiator mounts. They're really crooked on both sides. So what I did was, by locking these in place, this one specifically is really tight, it's holding the radiator, like it doesn't even budge at all. So that's good for now. I'm gonna try and figure out a solution but for those bolts, but for now I'm just I capped these off just to keep everything tidy and make sure everything's where it's supposed to go. Yeah, I guess this one's pretty loose, but it's fine. I mean, it's just there to hold the little cylinder inside of it, so that's doing its job. Like I said, this one is super tight, like I can't even undo it without pliers. So I don't think the radiator is going to move at all, at least temporary, before I find some bolts for that. But yeah, I gotta clean up everything now. I gotta get all the coolant into a jug so I can dispose of it properly, and then I gotta figure out what to do with the old radiator. But yeah, so I'm gonna start cleaning this stuff up because it's about to get dark, and then maybe I'll jump into adding the coolant tonight, but we'll see. I got a lot further today than I actually expected, so I'm pretty happy with that. Plus these new blue hoses look sweet. Wish you could see more of the new shiny radiator, but at least you can still see the logo here. You can't see the actual radiator inside there at all because the AC condenser is in front of it, so the big M on the radiator is kind of pointless, I guess. Okay, now we got to go ahead and put the battery back on. So tighten down this 10mm here. Okay, so I went ahead and got this radiator funnel. So it comes with these attachments that connect directly to your radiator cap, and it comes with all different attachments. It also has a stopper so you can stop fluid from running out, and a cover so if you overfill, you don't have to just pull the funnel and let fluid go everywhere. You can cap it off and then pull it out. So this is a really nice system. It's definitely worth the money. It's going to make bleeding the system and getting all the air out a lot easier because I can just fill it a third of the way full, and then from the interior of the car I'll be able to see the fluid as it goes down and watch my temperature gauge and all of that. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this up a third of the way, and then we're going to start the car and let it get up to temperature. The other thing is there's supposed to be a bleeder valve back here, but I can't seem to find it. Now, all the videos that I've watched, the bleeder valve looks like this thing right here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but basically it's a little Phillips head screw plastic that you unscrew to bleed the system. Now, every video that I've watched, they have it on the left side, so I'm not really sure why it's on the right side for me, but I'm hoping that's it. So I'm going to loosen that up using a large Phillips head. I'm going to loosen that up, and you basically fill the system until you see some fluid come out of this. Okay, so we got that out. So this is the this is what I was talking about here. So got that out. I'm just gonna keep an eye on that. Like I said, I'm not really sure why it's on the right side of my car, but most people that I watch do radiator flushes and stuff are doing it on a DE motor rather than the HR, so maybe that has something to do with it. But let's fill this up. Okay, so the bleeder valve just overflowed, so I tightened it back down, and now I've already actually put in a whole jug of coolant, and then I'm about, oh well, you can see it there, almost done with the second jug, and it just stopped bubbling out air bubbles. So now I'm gonna start the car and basically let it get up to operating temperature, squeeze the hoses, try to get the bubbles out. I may have to use the bleeder valve again, and you're also supposed to hold the car at 3,000 RPMs so that way the thermostat will open up. So let's get doing that. So the cool thing is, like I said, I can see right underneath my hood there the jug, so I'll be able to tell if there's any bubbles coming out. So you can see there, bubbles coming out. I want to turn on my heat. I'm not going to put it on full blast, but I got it all the way hot. Still see bubbles coming out. This is actually the first time I've ran the car in like a week and a half. So as you can see, there's bubbles coming out. I'm gonna make sure I keep an eye on my temperature. I'm not sure if it's just cold out or if I'm actually already feeling warm air. I'm gonna fill this up a little bit more. Make sure when you're squeezing this hose, just be careful of the belt. You can see when I squeeze the hose that bubbles come out. Okay, so it's already getting up to temperature. I actually have warm air. So I'm gonna go to 2,500 RPM. Hold it there for 10 seconds. Okay, I have warm air. Temperature's starting to rise. Nothing crazy yet. Everything sounds good. don't see any visual leaks. Just gonna keep squeezing these, try and get all the bubbles out. Okay, so a couple really good signs. The bubbling has slowed down. I have hot air right off the bat, which I'm really surprised about. Car is up to temperature. It doesn't seem to be going any higher. So I'm gonna shut it down. And we're gonna let it cool down. Let's see if we can get temperature reading so that way I know when it's cool. Shut my fan off. That way I'll know when it's cool again. Just gonna keep burping it, and this should suck, now that the car's not running, this should suck the fluid right down. I can feel fluid in the lower hose, which is really good. That is so tight. Top hose is starting to get warm, which is good. It's sucking down the fluid a little bit. It's steaming, so the fluid's obviously warm. So that means the thermostat has opened up. I'm gonna loosen this bleeder valve again. See if anything comes out of here. Okay, yeah, be careful when you're doing that bleeder valve, because I just opened it and fluid came out right away. And it's hot, so it's really hot. So be careful of that. Got some coolant spillage. This is what takes the longest, is sitting here and waiting for that to cool down. So, yeah, we're just gonna have to wait for that now to do the next round. So the radiator is in, everything seems to be all fixed and running properly. My car is coming up to temperature, no problem. Things are looking good. I don't seem to have any visual leaks. Hopefully it stays that way. I will keep you guys updated on that, but I hope you all have an awesome day, and thanks for staying tuned. Peace out.